Hello, everyone. How you doing? This is Chanan, and you
I'm
got the good
Joey
man
Lott.
Joey Lott.
Hi,
Hey,
everybody.
Jinx, buy me a Coke. We said your name at the same
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
So, kind of want to come to you loosey goosey a little bit. It's like rainy days on not Monday, Sundays always get you down. So I thought today's topic we really take a look at, moods. The moods that we go through in life, and kind of when we get the downers, right? When things kind of take us down. Rainy days on Mondays always get me down, right? And then even deeper in that for some of us, and at some point for a lot of us, or even you right now, depression, right? Where the mood and the downer and the sadness really gets indulged to the point where we're in our mind so deeply that we're deeply depressed. And I'll share a little story with you about my experience of that in a moment. But now that we know what the topic's about, I just want to say welcome. For those of you who don't know about me, my name is Chanan, and go by the name Brian Mark Zimberg most of my life. I was born as that's my tribal name there. And I'm the best-selling author of books called Stop, Smile, Breathe, Be, creator and co-founder of Evolutionary Human Development and Access Points of Modern Life Meditation Plan, which is really a discovery upon discovery, is of this most direct way of getting out of your mind, shifting out of your mind, recognizing meditation is here. And I am a family man, so I'm living in the modern life, and we always want to get that across to people. Same with Joey, right? Joey Lott, author of many books on Amazon. You can check them out. Really clear speaker of awakening. So that's what
And
we want to talk about. Go ahead, Joey.
I'm saying the point is, we're coming together. We're doing all of these, uh, producing all this content together because we have realized that there's this really powerful resonance that we want to share. There's a kind of movement that's happening, and we're inviting people to that. We've come together. We've each taught on our own, and we've come together. We've had a long-standing friendship, but we've come together because we want to share with you really a fresh way of looking and seeing and experiencing your life, really to know yourself. And so we're looking at all of these different topics through that clarity, that light,
That's right.
shining that light on it so that we can all awaken to our true oneself and live from that. And when we do that, just by shining the light of clarity, which is the light of who you are. It's the light of consciousness. And so as we come together through these meetings, that's what we're doing together. And so you can actually just settle in and receive. That's the gift of this, is that you don't have to try to understand it, but the real shift is taking place by you receiving, just being yourself. So just settle in for a few minutes. We're going to have a little bit of fun talking about a subject that for most people is not so much fun, right? Because for most of us, feeling like we're in a mood, or we're feeling down, or we're feeling depressed, that doesn't seem like something enjoyable at all. Most of us don't want to look at it, right? We just want to avoid it. But what happens is, if we're just trying to avoid it, then we're not seeing clearly what's actually happening. We don't realize the choice that we're making. And for me, that was something that I struggled with for a long time. I had no idea that I was making this choice to struggle, you see, because what happens is that the moods come and go. The experiences come and go, the sensations come and go, the feelings come and go, the thoughts come and go, the stories come and go. Everything comes and goes except the clarity, because the clarity is always here. And the clarity is actually who you are, but most of us have overlooked that. And for me, I struggled for such a long time because I thought that I had to solve all these problems. I had to fix it. I had to change the mood, get out of the mood, struggle with the mood, fix the mood. And that very much did not work. Not only did it not work, I mean, it was made things way worse, as I'm sure it does for many people. I mean, I see that working with people, communicating with people. I mean, this is sort of the human condition for many people, is that they're struggling. And the opportunity is that you don't actually have to struggle. It's actually possible to just be yourself and to rest in that clarity and to notice that you are always here and that all of that is coming and going. And that's where, for me personally, that's where I found real freedom, real lasting freedom and peace. To shift from a life of struggle and nightmare. Really, I mean, I was living a nightmare for about 20 years. It was just absolute horror. And to wake up was not to wake up into some other state. It wasn't to enter another state of to shift from being depressed the state that I was calling depression to another state. It was to wake up into life, to the reality of who I am, and that's possible for everybody, which
So
is
Joey,
really
what's maybe you can more specifically tell us what is the experience then of living awake compared
right.
to living trapped in your mind?
Yeah,
Because so it's not, so maybe we get a little
yeah,
crisper for people. Like
sure.
what is your experience of life now?
Yeah,
Joey went through OCD and multiple, you know, anorexia and multiple things through his life that he's healed from.
yeah,
And I think that's a big deal. So since you mention it, how did that healing occur? You know,
yeah.
and so it's not just general that comes and goes. And you saw, like, how did that healing occur? And what's different now? Like, what is it to live
Yeah.
an awake life for you?
Great. Yeah, great question. So the experience previously, although I didn't realize it at the time, but the experience in retrospect was that I was fixated on the mind and everything that the mind had to say, all the mind's commentary, I believe to be true. So the mind is I mean, I see this for myself and also for everybody else who I communicate with. The mind's constantly creating boogeymen, right? So I would liken it to when I was a child, when I was a young child. I remember in the dark, I would get so afraid of some monster or villain in the dark, lurking in the dark, and I would pull the covers over my head because somehow that gave me this sense of security and safety. But the reality is, of course, if there was really something there, pulling the blanket over my head isn't going to help. And I think that just generates more anxiety. And that was what my experience of life had become, is that everything that happened in my life, I felt like there was something lurking in the in the always in the corners, in the shadows behind me, something that was going to get me. I mean, I was living paranoia, constantly afraid, because all the sensations that were happening, my mind had a commentary telling me that those sensations were something horrible. They were going to kill me and destroy me and torture me and make me miserable forever and ever and ever and ever, and probably kill my family and all my loved ones and destroy everything. And it would just
And I think a place for people to relate to this in your own life is to really take in what's the reflection of what he's saying to you,
yeah,
right? You know, some people have OCD, other people just are bummed out,
yeah,
right? There's a funky mood, right? There's a lot of negative things going on in the world.
yeah,
And then the negative things, our mind turns around and does it to ourselves, right? We have the war inside. And what we're pointing to through all of this is that it's possible to actually, you know, we didn't say clearly that what meditation really is shifting out of your mind, right? You
yeah,
can't say it clearer than that.
yeah,
So if you shift out of your mind, you no longer believe you yourself to be your mind. Like you all hear, you're not your ego, you're not your mind, but that's not your experience.
right,
So to shift to having that experience is to no longer have to be stuck in it,
yeah,
right? So that mood, that sadness, that depression, right? That angst, or even that deep, like existential funk, right? That deep funk. And I'll talk about that in a minute. I'll go back to Joey and his story. But what I want you to recognize in you is whether those moments happen once in a while in life and you're good at pushing them down. See, because when we push down on worthiness, there's anxiety. When we indulge on worthiness, there's depression, right? So sadness has never been allowed to be here. So recognize what Joey's talking about. He was stuck in his head experiencing, so whatever degree that is in your life, that you know that, you know, you could be happy and alive, but then there's these emotions that come that just pull you down. Maybe they pull you down for an hour. You got to sleep it up. Maybe they pull you down for 2 days, for weeks. Maybe they've pulled you down for a lifetime,
yeah.
right? And you've hit this point where you're ready to come out. So just wanted to kind of let people relate that
Yeah.
to themselves and in your life, you know?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's awesome, because that's really the point, is to really look for yourself and see how this connects with your own experience, because direct experiences, there's no substitute for that. You know, we could give you information all day long, but you get the real benefits when you look for yourself and connect it through your own direct experience and see how this is true for you. So the real shift for me was realizing, I mean, I was brought to my knees because I realized that I couldn't go any further in that way. I mean, I was literally going to end up dying very quickly because of how badly this was going. Me trying to fix it, constantly giving attention to the mind, struggling, running, doing everything, trying to fix this problem that I perceived there was. And I had names for the problem, just like I could have had names for the monsters, right? In the dark, the boogeyman, or Count Dracula, or whatever. I mean, I could have names for them. And so I could have names for these, for whatever I was experiencing: OCD, anxiety, anorexia, depression. I could have all these names, and they became like the monsters. And I felt like they were attacking me. I felt like a victim, like this was my, like life was against me. And it was in this moment of yeah, I had to realize that the real peace is found in actually meeting the experience. It's like welcoming the monsters here for tea, and not trying to get rid of them. Not even, the fear might be here because it's all that fear of and it's the boogeyman, it's the boogeyman. But to actually just turn on the light, set the table, sit down, and welcome the boogeyman for tea, and to find out who the boogeyman really is. And the real gift for me and for many, many other people who look is to discover that the boogeyman has been me all along, and that it's love. And that's possible for everybody to recognize that in the core of what was most feared, most hated, most desperately run from, that's where true and abiding peace and freedom and clarity and love and connection is found. It's what you've always been looking for, and it's your true one self.
And that's the total truth. So you hear this idea that like you don't have to get to here because here is here, or be here now, right? Most people are trying to get to here, right? But be here now, or that you're really it. It's really all one. But how much are those really just kind of concepts to you? Or they perhaps have a flavor of some realizations or moments you've had in your life, or perhaps you're experiencing that a lot even throughout the day. But how many emotions aren't really allowed to be here?
Yeah. And
we have this whole dark part, like the yin yang, right? Dark, white, that whole dark part's been pushed away our entire lives. So really the ego mind is running from that. We talked about the other day about it's trying to maintain being special to avoid the unknown at all costs, to avoid that fear. And to our delight, when we invite ourselves directly through the doorway of that which we've run from, not to get rid of it, not to fix it, we release, we open. We discover support surrounding us in every form and every way. We step out of the delusion of separation paradigm, and we actually start to receive this moment. And this isn't meaning that you're not engaged in life. It actually means that you come alive, really alive, not just stuck in being, but in a recognition of this creative impulse at this edge where if the ego fell over, it's the boogeyman, like Joey was just saying, right? If the ego fell over, if the ego let go, it's in such anxiety, it can be destroyed. But to take that scared child home is to go directly to the boogeyman, right? Directly to that which you can't cover with covers anyhow. Yep. And in that moment, to really see who are you really. Mm-hmm. The deepest invitation of one of my greatest mentors, Gangaji, and her teacher's teacher, Ramana Maharshi, was to turn your attention to the sense that you are, that I am. I am that I am. And if you say that right now, I am that I am, you can start to see when moods come, emotions come, that the resistance or the indulgence and the battle and what the mind's saying about it. So I want you to imagine what it'd be like to just let that come and go like traffic. What if you just let your thoughts come and go right now like traffic, like a radio in the background? And whatever emotion or mood was here, that you could just recognize that you are. The problem is, as we talked about before, even the mind co-opts this idea of self-inquiry, of turning to an I, who am I? And it turns into this technique. Yeah. So why we're doing all this, because we've come upon that direct path in 2019 through the 43 gigabytes of information and loud noise, through the building of fear. There has to be light. And we want you to come into the light. Yep. So, I suffered from depression only once in my life. It was for a month and a half. So I'm sure some of you who suffer deeper from depression are like, oh, poor you. Right? But what is the point here? The point is that I was always up. So, I was one of those high energy people. If you're one of those people, high energy people, I could be annoying or not. right? I always went after things in life. So people respected me for that and for who I am, right? So my weaknesses and my strengths. Now my mind's judgment of myself and other people's ideas of what I thought they think of me, right? Living in that veneer. Where are our emotions coming from? But basic reactivity to life. Mm-hmm. So the audacity to just not believe your mind anymore. I want you to just imagine that for a moment, to not believe your mind anymore. And then it could actually come and go. And then you could shift in that moment. We call that accessing oneness, or an access point. So these are like a new modern type of meditation where you don't have to be someplace, sitting down for 30 minutes, put headphones on. We're talking about, if oneness is true, you have to be experienced at anywhere in your life. So that means there's no mood, no emotion, no thought, no human, no other thing occurring, no circumstance that is in the way of your direct experience. But you need to dawn on this realization, not just once, not just some past experience chasing for a new one, but we mentor you in actually seeing that in your daily life, you're shifting. So you directly know this without question, without doubt. And that's where people are saying, you know, whoa, what's the deal with this? Or how does this work? Right? Or somebody, I'm not sure if this aligns with my beliefs. This aligns with every belief. But first and foremost, it shows you to stop believing. Stop believing. Can you imagine if you didn't believe what your mind says, these negative thoughts about you, when you're feeling that emotion that just downward spirals you into that poor me, what's wrong with me, or I should know better? I mean, if any of these things ring true to you, I want you just to imagine what it'd be like if you didn't have to believe those thoughts at all. They were just passing cars. And you could just soak in that experience you have out in nature, but you are nature. So wherever you are, it's possible to experience that. So we've isolated a technique, a process really, because it's exact order in your life that this is exposed to you over and over again, where that shift, that muscle of shifting to awareness out of your mind, because we're stuck in our mind, running from emotion, believing our thoughts. So you see, we're not getting rid of anything. We're not fixing anything. We're letting the mind be the mind, letting thoughts be thoughts, letting sensations that the body wants to resist or do something about and panic about be here, meeting them directly. They have a gift for you, right? The diamond in your pocket. You discovered the boogeyman is you. It was just a mental freak out, a construct. And everything was just supporting you to get to this point. So you're ready to awaken. So let's take a look at moods for a minute, very specifically. A mood comes, an emotion comes, whether it's down, funky, angst, right? Now you could seem like it comes from your mind, and maybe it does, right? Or a circumstance you're reacting to. And sometimes a mood just seems to kind of hit. So just like when you reset a phone, what do you need to do when you take a new download? You reset the phone. It has to go down into the void. See, darkness isn't what we think it is. The boogeyman isn't what we think it is. So when we allow ourselves to actually naturally fall into whatever's present here, we allow ourselves to receive and release and be with whatever energy, whatever is needed to be with. In fact, if you're being with sadness, is it just your sadness, or is it the sadness of the world? But when we make that sadness personal, and then we believe our mind what it's about us, that mood turns into an avalanche. Yep. Instead of being able to actually let it come and go and letting us reset with the new program and into life. That's right. So when I suffered from this depression, I was actually out teaching already for years, helping people awaken everywhere. And I had a girlfriend at the time who was with me through all of that. So very close and part of the community I was sharing with. And somehow psychedelics came 3 times in a row into my life, and it didn't work out so well for those days. It appeared, but the gift of it is it actually ripped my life apart to get me to where I am now. There's nothing that occurred in your life that really touched the core of who you are. I promise you that's the truth, and you can know it yourself. And every ounce of your life has brought you to this point here where you're ready for self-awareness. Imagine self-awareness awakening within you, within this human. and including this human. This is what we're up to here. This is what eons of time have taken us to. And the war out there will end in this shift of consciousness.
Yeah.
So I went through a breakup, right? Lost my girlfriend at the time, who I thought I'd be with the rest of my life. You know, you guys know that experience, losing someone and the heartbreak of that. And this hit me so hard. And at this point, I've been awake for about 10 years. So I didn't really know the experience of being disconnected from that divine connection, from that oneness for a long time. And throughout the day, I would still feel that, but I was waking up in tears, going to sleep in tears. I left my city I was in. I left the home I was in, left the job, went home, 4 years old, sleeping in my mother's home. You know, of course, in that, the mind says, what? Like, what the F is wrong with me? What happened? So how could I share with others if I didn't have that level of compassion, understanding of that darkness that we can go into? But it's the battling of the darkness which makes it persist, right? What resists persists. You see, all these spiritual things are true, but then they're really just in the way too. So experiencing that for about a month and a half. And my mom wanted to give me medicine, right? So I took an antidepressant. I'm like, I got to get off that within a week or two. I said, no, thank you. Because what I had realized throughout my journey is that every emotion has to truly be met. But maybe I wasn't ready to meet that yet. So after a month of that, I knew I was. I knew I have to meet this. There's no other way around things, people. There's no escape out of your life. Got to really get that. The mind is trying to escape. It always thinks there's lack. There's not good enough. Something's wrong. It needs more. So it's always over there instead of here. It's always one step out of the moment. It's always lacking. And it's never really present to meeting what is here. So the invitation of your own heart is to really meet what's here. To stop denying and stop lying to yourself. Is to come out of the delusion of mind. And that's what all those moods and the downers, it's the meaning and the story we make about that experience that wreaks havoc on our lives. And the inability to recognize this insanity for what it is makes us run from emotion or be run by emotion. And that's not freedom, that's slavery. So after that period of that sadness, I just went and sat at the ocean. So what freed me from that? Meditation. But not just meditation in the way that we think meditation is. I got to sit here and do it to have it. Just sitting and being with the intensity of that, the fire of it, the energy of it, the dissonance of it. It ends up being the energy of life. And boom, I opened my eyes and poof, I was more one than ever before. See, so we go into the dark to reveal the light. And that's the movement of revelation. In darkness, revealing light. To live in revelation, to really live alive and receiving life, is to include every single aspect of you. What would be possible when a mood arises that you could directly meet it, not believe your mind at all, and experience the great allowing that includes that? How would that be for you? How would your relationships look? How would your life look if you no longer got stuck in your thoughts at all without getting rid of the ego? You didn't have to get rid of emotion. You didn't have to try to seek and get to some other emotion, which we talked about before. It becomes a new spiritual seeker suffering, is that you're sick of seeking. And you know you got to stop seeking because you know you just got to be here, but you got to be with it all. But the mind still keeps coming back and grabbing it. So it's possible to be free of your mind. And that's really the next evolution of what it is to be human. To live from our soul, not from the survival animal. Yeah. So we're saying with everything we can, we're every way we can come at you, we're going to invite you to, we have a masterclass coming up tomorrow. So if you type the word class, CLASS, down below, if you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube or one of the other platforms, look right below this video or next to it. There'll be a link to click on. It's brianmark.com/masterclass. Okay. Joey and I are also going to be opening up some small select meetings with only a small group of people so you can really work with us directly and not just go through the masterclass, but really work with us directly. What's really important is to get an assessment and really take a look at where you are on your journey. Okay. What have you been through? Self-help, fixing. What have you been through that brought you to the spiritual journey? What have you realized? What are you holding on to? Where are you stuck? Where is there blockage? This is always the place when we shine light on the place that we don't see, the blind spot, right? Then there's opening. It's like bringing awareness into every single part, into every mood, into every downer, into every upper, into the depression. So while we can move out of depression, by the way, the solution for depression is when you're no longer stuck in your mind, you recognize you're free. And then you'll start to see these patterns come, that negative or the mood that pulls you back into that poor me story and the depression, because you literally that downer. So what opens your eyes to that oneness? Like, again, for me, after being awake for all those years and going into it and then back out, revelation, revealing, is the possibility of letting that all come and go. And the indulgence in depression, then you start to see it. You start to slow down and see, oh, there's a choice if I believe my thoughts or not. It doesn't seem like there's any choice for most of you, and I understand that. But we train you in 8 weeks. In the first 3-4 weeks, most people see this very clearly, that before every thought, you don't have to believe your thought, that there's actually awareness, and you can shift to that awareness. And awareness is inclusive. It has no issue or problem. Coming back to zero.
And that shift is totally effortless, which is what's awesome about this. You know, it's that you don't have to do it. It's just simply once you are, we activate these access points, and once they're activated, then all you have to do is just allow the access point to access. You know, and so it's actually an effortless, timeless thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't require any extra time or effort from you, which makes it something that everybody can do. And because it really is, you know, and sometimes people say, well, you know, nothing else worked for me. This couldn't really work for me. But the truth is, if you are, you know, if you exist, and I guarantee you do, then this works for you, because that's really what we're doing, is just allowing, it's a recognition of who you are. And we've developed or discovered a radically simple, direct process that allows you to recognize that in life, in any moment in life, so that you no longer have to suffer or struggle from any of the delusion, because you can actually live from clarity no matter what is happening. And I promise you that's available to you. So we'd love to have you join us for our masterclass. If you're on Facebook, type class, CLASS, in the comments below, and we'll send you information about how to register for that. Anywhere else, it's brianmarc.com, BrianMarc.com/masterclass. And we look forward to seeing you there. And I have to go, so I'm out.
Really good seeing everybody. Lots of love to everybody.
Yeah.
All right. Look forward to exploring this with you and letting you see that this is truly possible. And this is the next evolution of what it is to be human. We will transform the world this way, but it has to start with you. It has to start with us. We take responsibility for our awakening. So we ask you to join this movement of awakening, and let's shift it all. All right.